Hare Krishna. Oh, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam review class, Srimad Bhagavatam Bhakti Vaibhav class. Thank you for joining in. We'll begin with our prayers. Just 1 minute. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamdhyam. Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are beginning the second canto today. So second canto is a very, very interesting and most of the technical things are there in the second canto. So let's see how we go about this. So in the last section, last canto, we heard how Maharaj Parikshit, he was a great devotee of the Lord from his childhood. Savai Bhagavato Raja Pandavayo Maharatha Bala Kridanakai Bale Krishna Kridam Yadade. In his childhood, he would play with the dolls of Krishna. That's how great he was. So Shukdev Goswami, when he was asked these three questions, what is the duty of a person who is about to die? What is the duty of everyone? And what one should hear, remember and chant, and what one should not hear, not remember and not chant. So Shukdev Goswami understood the great devotion of Parikshit Maharaj and he welcomed these questions. And because Parikshit Maharaj hinted that worship of Krishna is the ultimate function, so therefore Shukdev Goswami welcomed the suggestion and therefore he begins this second canto and he says, Varyaneshate Prashna. What a wonderful question you have asked. So that's how this canto begins. So before beginning, we'll just see the background of this canto and why this canto describes universal form 3 times. So total 5 times universal form is described in Bhagavatam. Second canto and third canto. Second canto 3 times, third canto 2 times. So we have heard that in Bhagavad Gita, this universal form is the imaginary form, right? So why to spend so much of the time discussing this imaginary form? If it is imaginary, we are discussing 5 times this imaginary form. Swarup Damodar Maharaj, he was instructed by Prabhupada that you open an institute for preaching this knowledge of cosmology. And that's how you can bring this scientific community to the path of devotional service. So it is a very, very important thing to understand. This universal form is a description of material propensities or material tendencies of the Lord. So Bhagavad Gita has 3 sections: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. So if we analytically observe the middle 6 chapters, Bhakti Yoga, which is talking about ultimate knowledge of Bhakti. So what is the ultimate knowledge given in this section? 7th chapter is entitled as Jnana Vijnana Yoga, knowledge of the Absolute. In that, what is described? Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Vayu, And then apareyam itastvanyam daivi hesha gunumayi. This is all energies of the Lord. No direct devotion is described there. Then what is the 8th chapter? Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Attaining the supreme by the process of yoga. Path of light, path of darkness. No devotion directly mentioned. What is 9th chapter? Maya tatam idam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina. What is that? Energies of the Lord. And then in between, 9th chapter, Krishna describes some details of bhakti, ananya chintayanto mam, and then manmanabha mat bhakto. And then it is over. Only 3-4 verses describe devotion. What is 10th chapter? Vibhuti, material opulence of the Lord. No bhakti in that. And then 11th form is directly universal. 11th chapter, universal form. And then Bhakti Yoga is the 12th chapter. And that is the shortest. Only 20 verses. And then Bhakti section is over. So we call the middle 6 chapters as the Bhakti Yoga, but if we analytically observe, Bhakti element is very, less there. So why, Krishna is stressing so much of, discussion of the material opulence in this Bhakti section? Because for a beginner in Krishna consciousness, unless we understand how Krishna has manifested in this material world, his foundation of Bhakti will not become strong. Because Bhagavad Gita is a graduate level of knowledge. In the 5th canto in the end, in the 2nd canto, Shukadeva Goswami says, Mayam varnayato amushya ishwarasya anumoditaha shinvata shraddhaya nityam mayayatmana muhyati. Mayam varnayato amushya. If we hear the Maya of the Lord, Ishwarasya anumodita, which is sanctioned by the Lord only. Shinvata shraddhaya nityam. If we hear with faith regularly, what will happen? Maya yatmana muhyati. We will not get bewildered by Maya. So that is the importance of studying this material opulence of the Lord. The more we understand that this is material opulence, this is the manifestation of the Lord, we will not get bewildered by the Lord, by the energy of the Lord. So that's how so much of the subject is, so much of the time is spent in discussing these 5 forms of universe. So everything has a purpose. Not that abhi Shukadeva Goswami ko aur kuch yaad nahi aa raha to ek aur baar bol dete hain universal form. It was not like that. So every time there is a different purpose. Why Shukadeva Goswami is speaking universal form 5 times? Every time the purpose is different. So we'll be discussing that also. And we'll see in Bhagavatam, every devotee, when he begins questions, he begins by asking about the material energies of the Lord. You take Parikshit Maharaj, Vidura, Narada, everybody is asking about. First, he asks about the material energy, universal form. The 8th chapter of this 2nd canto is only questions of Parikshit Maharaj. And all the questions, most of the questions are related to universal form. And then some parts of the other chapters are also there in this. So these topics are very, very important for the neophyte. Dhruva, when he is praying to the Lord, he addresses the Lord first, how you have enlivened my senses and how you have manifested in this world. You create, you maintain, you destroy. Every devotee prays like that. And we may be wondering, sab log to jante hain, itna baar baar bolne ka kya zarurat? But that's how we stress the importance that everything is coming from you, my Lord. I acknowledge your, energy working everywhere. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, he entitles the 1st chapter, First Step in God Realization. So that's how the canto begins. So this means that this universal form is the material potency of the Lord. And we have to begin by understanding this material energy of the Lord. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan, these are the 3 features of the Lord. So it begins with Brahman feature. And Then after developing sufficient knowledge and then after getting purified, then he starts understanding that, okay, I have to control my desires. I have to control my desires to love the Lord. So that is how the first canto progresses. So the first canto, first chapter, second canto, first chapter is first step in God realization. And then after realizing it, that is Brahman feature. Then you move more inside. Then that is the second chapter, the Lord in the heart, Paramatma feature. And then after realizing the Lord in the heart, you develop a connection with the Lord. And that is how the third chapter is pure devotional service. So that's how this canto progresses. So now, Prabhupada has entitled all these cantos differently. So in Jaladuta diary, Prabhupada has made a list of the names of various cantos he would like to give. In that he writes, first canto is the absolute truth. Second canto, he writes symptoms of objectivity. Third canto, creation of the material world or sarga. Then fourth canto, sub-creators or visarga. Fifth canto, the planetary system. Sixth canto, the poshana, the protector. And that's how he continues. So the first three cantos he entitles as little different. Abhi first canto ka kya naam hai? It is absolute truth, right? Second canto, the cosmic manifestation. But that's not the topic Prabhupada wrote in the beginning. He gave the title Symptoms of Objectivity. But later, Prabhupada, he just changed it. So that's how the progression of the canto. Then Parikshit asks in the third canto about the genealogical line of the Manus. And that's how the story of Swayambhuva Manu begins. And then Parikshit Maharaj, Shukdeva Goswami took 4 cantos just to describe Swayambhuva Manu's dynasty. So then in the 8th canto, Parikshit Maharaj asked, मैंने आपको Manus का बोला question. I wanted to hear all 14. And one description you took 4 cantos, So please explain the remaining 13 also. So that's how Shukdeva Goswami summarizes all the 13 in the 8th canto. So that's how it goes on. Okay. So then, what leads Shukdeva Goswami to speak this second canto? So Parikshit Maharaj, he asks a question in the 19th chapter. Aho adya vayam brahma satsevya shatra bandhava kripaya tithi rupena bhavadbhis tirthaka kritah. So that is the 32nd verse. We are Shatra Bandhava, we are fallen Kshatriyas, and you have appeared in front of us just to show mercy. And he didn't go to Shamik Rishi to ask forgiveness because he was very, very sensitive. And then he glorifies Shukdeva Goswami. Just by remembering you, we get purified. And then just by being in association of you, entire family gets purified. So that's how he glorifies Shukdeva Goswami, and then he glorifies his connection with the Pandavas. Apite Bhagavan Prita Krishna Pandu Sutpriya Paitra Swaseya Prityartham Tad Gotrasyat Bandhava. I was related to Pandavas, that's why Lord has sent you, Shukdeva Goswami. So that's how the 19th chapter was. So now we'll begin the first chapter. I think thoda equal hai. Shri Shuka Uvacha Varyaneshate Prashna Krito Lokahitam Nripa Atmavid Sammata Pumsam Shrotavyadishu Yah Paraha.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said, my dear king, Krishna is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendental reasons.
So Parikshit Maharaj had asked 4 questions: what one should hear, chant, remember, what one should not, and what is the duty of a person who is about to die, and duty of everyone. So hearing these questions, so the chapter Canto begins with invocation Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and Prabhupada elaborates on it. And then, first of all, Shukadeva Goswami congratulates. Anywhere else such type of congratulation we have heard when some questions are asked? In the beginning of the
first canto beginning.
Yes. Munaya sadhu prishtoham bhavadbhir lokamangalam yatkrita Krishna samprasno yenatma suprasidati. So similarly here Shukadeva Goswami is glorifying the questions. Varyane shate prashna, your question is glorious. What to speak of answer, your question is glorious. Just by hearing your question, one will get benefited. Krito loka hitam ripa, it is beneficial for all people. Because Atmavit Sammataha, it is approved by all the transcendentalists, and Shrotavyadishu Yah Paraha. The answers to this question are worth hearing. So that is how Shukadeva Goswami glorifies. So there is a tremendous mutual appreciation between the speaker of the Bhagavatam and the hearer of the Bhagavatam. So both are equally, present and equally glorifying each other that we want to hear. But, just like we see so many coaching classes, they glorify the students who have topped their, from their institute. But the person who sets the paper is not glorified, right? Isne question paper banaya hai. We glorify him. But the spiritual life is we glorify the person who makes the question paper also, who asks the questions. Munaya sadhu prishtoham varyane shite prashna. So that's how there is a mutual appreciation which goes on. When 4 Kumaras were asked some questions by Prithu Maharaj, 4 Kumaras also say the same thing. Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja. What a wonderful question you have asked. O King, Sarva Bhut Hitatmana. It is for the welfare of everyone. So that's how it is. Atmavit Sammataha. So that is the mood of all devotees. And even Krishna. So Shukadeva Goswami, what he is doing? Atmavit Sammata. Such questions are approved by great authorities. So whenever somebody is asked a question, he tells, oh, I have heard from my authorities. I have heard from this person and I'll speak the same. Even Krishna does it. Krishna also does the same thing, although he doesn't have to quote anyone. He is the person who gives the knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita also, he has done this once. And anybody remembers? He says, Rishibhir bahudha gitam chando bhir vividhai prathak brahma sutra padaishchaiva hetu madbhir vinishchitai. Ye Bhagavad Gita mein aata hai. Sorry. So Rishibhir, great sages have described. Rishibhir bahudha gitam chandobhir, and choicest poetry, they have described this. And therefore, he's saying this question is approved by great authorities. So I'll speak the same knowledge. So Prabhupada writes, even the very question is so nice that it is the best subject matter for hearing. Simply by such questioning and hearing, one can achieve the highest perfectional stage. Vasudeva katha prashna purusham strin punatihi vaktaram prachakam shrotram tatpada salilam yatha. So 3 people get benefited. So questions are also very, very important. Because Lord Krishna is original, supreme person, any question about him is original and perfect. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that highest perfection of the life is to achieve the transcendental loving service of Krishna. What is this verse? Prema Pumartu Mahan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatradarana Paraha. Because questions and answers about Krishna elevate one to that transcendental position. Questions of Parikshit Maharaj about Krishna philosophy are generally glorified. And then Prabhupada writes how Maharaj Parikshit wanted to absorb his mind, so therefore he was questioning like this. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that simply by understanding the subject matter, transcendental nature of the Lord's name, disappearance, appearance, which was Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. One never has to come back. It is very auspicious, therefore, to hear about Krishna. Activities of Krishna and Krishna are not different. After a few lines, the topics of the Lord are so auspicious that they purify the speaker, the hearer, and the inquirer. They are compared to Ganga. Same verse Prabhupada is paraphrasing here. Vasudeva Katha Prashna Purusham Strin Punati. Prabhupada is paraphrasing. Wherever the Ganga waters go, they purify the land and the person who bathes in them. Similarly, Krishna Katha are so pure that wherever they are spoken, the place, the hearer, the inquirer, the speaker, and all concerned become purified. So that's the glory of Krishna Katha. That's the glory of Bhagavatam. It is the most purifying scripture. Yasya akhilami vahabi sumangalai vacho vimishra gunakarma janmabi prananti shumbhanti punanti vai jagat yastad virakta shavashobha namati. Any word which is mixed with the name, form, pastimes of the Lord, they purify the world, animate the world, and beautify the world. Otherwise, everything else is shavashobhana, decoration of a dead body. So Chakravarti Thakur writes that question alone, if heard, chanted, and remembered, will make people completely successful, even if you just remember the question. Furthermore, by hearing the answer given by me to that question, you will become successful. So that's how it is glorified. And now, so Parikshit Maharaj had asked the question what one should not chant, remember, and hear. So Parikshit Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami begins with answering that question. So 3 verses describe karma, yoga, how people in this world, they get entangled in the family life. And they hear all the topics of the world which they should not hear. Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santi Sahasrashaha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grahamedhinam.
Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of the ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, O Emperor.
Protavyadini Rajendra, O King, Nrinam, people in the world, they have thousands of topics to talk about. Santi Sahasrashaha. Start talking. If somebody starts talking, then chalta rehta hai. 2 घंटे के बाद बोलते हैं जाने दो ना अपने क्या करना है. Apashyatam, they don't see the absolute truth. They are blind to Atma Tattva. Therefore, they are Griha Medhinam. Those persons who are materially engrossed. So Prabhupada elaborates on these 2 terms, Grihastha and Griha Medhi. So Stha means Sthita, one who is situated in the Grihastha, Griha, in house. And Griha Medhi means a person whose Medha means intelligence or consciousness, is just attached in Griha. That person is called as Griha Medhi. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, Griha Medhina means those who are attached to their houses, absorbed in the 5 sins in the house. What are the 5 types of sins people commit every day? That's why they would do 5 types of yajna, Pancha Maha Yajna in the past. There are 5 types of sins which the householders, they do because they have to do so many things. Just like previously they would grind grains, pounding grains to take out rice. So it requires killing of some insects. That is sinful. Then cooking also kills some insects. Then, grinding also kills some insects. First to take the rice out of the paddy, and then grind the grain. Also some insects are killed. Then Just to fill water, some insects are killed. And then when you broom, some insects are killed. So that's how those people who are just absorbed in 5 types of sins, and they are thinking how to atone for it, how to come out of this. That is their only consciousness. They are called as Griha Medhi. So Prabhupada writes, Griha Medhi means those who live only for the benefit of family members, extended or centralized. Medhi indicates jealousy of others. Griha Medhi, being interested in family affairs only, are certainly envious of others. Neighbors envy, owners pride, So that's how it is. The more neighbor has, the more I am happy. The more I have, now I'll be happy. And if the neighbor has, it is a question of, it will create envy. Meri sari, uski sari, meri sari se safed kaise, Therefore, one Griha Medhi is not on good terms with another Griha Medhi. And in the extended form, one community, society or nation is not on good terms with another. So in age of Kali, all householders are jealous because they are blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth. So the more we are absorbed in material things of the world, it is a nature that one becomes envious and jealous. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would say, okay, these are Graha Medhis, but somebody may be staying in Matha and he may be Matha Medhi. Just eating and passing stool or not doing anything. So he was very strong. So he's basically a person who is using resources to live comfortably in the Matha. That is, he's a Matha Medhi. So the principle remains the same. If somebody is staying in the house or a Matha but enjoying life, not utilizing it for self-realization, he is a Matha Medhi or a Griha Medhi. So Prabhupada elaborates on it a little bit. They have many subject matters for hearing: political, scientific, social, economic, and so on. Due to poor fund of knowledge, they set aside the questions of ultimate miseries of life. Factually, human life is meant only for ultimate solution of birth, old age, disease, and death. But Griha Medhis forget everything. Second paragraph. Process of going back home, back to Godhead is to hear about the Supreme Lord. But the foolish people do not know this. So therefore, Griha Medhis, they are just talking about, what will happen to me, what will happen to my family. Prabhupada would always say in his classes, everyone in this world is asking questions. Birds in the morning, they get up and they start chirping. What are they asking? They are asking questions. Where is food? Where is food? Every species in the world is asking for the same thing. Questions. So this entire world is question and answers. Where is the food? Where is clothing? Where is shelter? Where will I sleep? Where will I mate? So if our intelligence is only in these things, then that is a Griha Medhi life. And then he elaborates in little more detail. Nidrayariyate naktam vyavayena cha bhavayaha divacharthe haya rajan kutumba bharanena va.
Lifetime of such this householder is passed at night, either in the sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime, either in making money or maintaining convenience.
So that's how he very nicely, concisely elaborates the life of a materialist. Nidraya riyate naktam. In the night, they spend either sleeping or enjoying, and daytime, earning money or kutumba bharanena va. So Prabhupada writes, present human civilization is based on the principles of sleeping and sex indulgence. Such a form of human civilization is condemned by the Bhagavata school. Apashyatam Atma Tattvam, because they are not aware of Atma Tattva. So that's how people, they spend their day. But a sober person, how does he spend his day? Shastras, they say, Pratah Dyuta Prasangena, Madhyan Stri Prasangat, Ratra Chauru Prasangena, Kalo Gachati Dhimatam. Morning we should hear about gambling. Afternoon, topics of women. Evening, चोर, dacoits, thieves. साधु लोग ऐसा जीवन बिताते हैं. So morning we should read the scripture of Mahabharata, because that is how we learn how to live in the world. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And then we should understand how to stick to the principles of dharma by reading Ramayana. How Ram is called as Dharma Parayan. And then in the end we should connect to Krishna. So that's how. But people who are Grihamedhi, they spend their day like this, and working and then sleeping in the night. Because human life is combination of matter and spirit, the whole process of Vedic knowledge is directed at liberating the spirit soul. This is called as Atma Tattva. And Prabhupada writes after a few lines, human life is not meant for hard labor for economic development, nor it is meant for sex indulgence like dogs and hogs. Prabhupada was very heavy. ऐसा बाहर बोलेंगे तो मतलब हम लोग को ही शर्म आएगा, you know? It is not so easy to speak, but Prabhupada was really strong when he would present the philosophy. No compromise. If you want to hear, this is the philosophy. And many people would come, Swamiji, just reduce one principle. You know, चार में से एक कम करिए, life will be easy. Prabhupada never compromised, because human life is not meant for hard labor. जड़ विद्या जत मायार वैभव तोमार भजने बाधा मोह जन्मिया नित्य संसारे जीव के कोराए गाधा. सुनने में बहुत अच्छा लगता है, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving all the gali here. Jada Vidya, all the material knowledge is Mayara Vaibhav. Jada Vidya Jata Mayara Vaibhav Tomara Bhajane Bada. It is obstacle in your bhajan. What will happen? Moha Janmiya, I get attached to the world. And Jiva ke karaye gadha. Man becomes like a donkey, carrying a huge load of unnecessary burden. That grass which is available anywhere, donkey, just whole day is working, and then in the end he gets the same grass and he's thinking, kitna acha kaam kiya maine. That's why he's called as Vaishak Nandan. पता है ना वैशाख नंदन का क्या मतलब होता है? That's how he's always happy in Vaishak.
What is that?
Oh, अच्छा. Vaishak means summer season. So donkey is very happy in Vaishak, because in summer very few places grass is growing. So he eats all the grass and then he looks around and sab kha liya maine. He's so happy. And then in the rainy season, he keeps eating. कुछ खत्म ही नहीं हुआ लगता है, कुछ खाया नहीं. He's sad. So that's how donkey is. Vaishak Nandan. किसी को बोलना हो तो हाँ Vaishak Nandan है. Sanskrit is a very refined. उसको लगा मेरे को glorify कर रहा है. Hindi is a gross गधा कहीं का. तो बहुत it is really okay. So human life is not meant for hard labor like donkeys. It is meant for self-realization. Prabhupada writes a very interesting line, last line. The materialistic way of life is described herein in a nutshell. And how foolishly men waste the boon of human life is described as follows. So it is a nutshell of materialistic life. Day is spent in working and night is spent as in earning. So there is a concept: work, shop, and I'm forgetting. Work, watch, and shop. WWS. This principle hai. People in the world, they go on working and then they come back and then they see television, so many advertisements they are watching, and it creates the desires. They go and shop, and then all the money is exhausted. Again work, again watch, again shop. So that's how the whole life is. WWS, work, watch, shop. People, they buy things with money which they don't have, to buy things which they don't need, to impress people which they don't love. So impress karna hai logon ko, mere paas itna hai. So that's how the life is. But human life is meant for tattva jigyasa. Kamasya na indriya priti labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa. So that's how they get certain type of juice in, this sense gratification. That's how Nectar of Devotion describes. The material sukha has some characteristic. Anybody remembers? Material rasa and spiritual rasa.
Spiritual material rasa mein, our intention is to enjoy, and that gets ended. And spiritual rasa is for eternity.
Okay.
It goes for
Yes.
eternity.
So it is limited, and there is concept of bhoga and tyaga. That is there in the material rasa. So therefore, there is some rasa which they get in these things. That's why they keep on doing it, because they don't have any other option. So what is the juice they get in this? That is described in the next verse. Deha patya kalatra dishu atma sainyashva satswapi esham pramatto nidhanam pashyannapi na pashyati.
Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. Hare Krishna.
Deha, apatya, kalatra, adishu. So there are 8 things which people take shelter in. Atma, Jaya, Suta, Agar, Pashu, Dravina, Bandhu, and Rajya. These are our shelters. So Shukdev Goswami just tells 3 things here, and later he elaborates how Parikshit Maharaj gave up all the 8 things. Deha, body, then Kalatra, wife, and Apatya, children. Adishu means everything else. Suta, Agar, Pashu, Dravina, Bandhu, and Rajya. They think these are my soldiers. Ye meri sena hai. These things will protect me. This is my Atma Sainya. But they are asatsu. They don't understand that themselves are fallible. Tesham pramatta. Because they are so mad with intoxication of sense gratification. Pramatta, prakrishta rupena matta. Where this word comes anywhere else? Very famous verse. Pramatta. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yadindriya pritaya pranoti. Prabhupada quotes this many times. This is a verse from Rishabhadev's instructions to his sons. Nunam pramatta. People are certainly completely mad because of sense gratification. Because therefore they do all the things of this world. Yadindriya pritaya pranoti. Just to enjoy their senses. So therefore, in this Deha, Apatya, Kalatra, Adishu, they get the foundation. That is the foundation of getting the juice of life. And that keeps on driving a person. And he is convinced that ye mere ko bachane wale hain. These people will save me. Pashyan api na pashyati. He sees that he also is dead. That relative is dying. He is also dying. But I will not die. Or somehow these will help me. So advertisements, they only talk about these things. Deha, Apatya, Kalatra, Adishu. So that is the whole propaganda going on. So this entire world is just working on propaganda. Hum honge kamyab ek din. That is how the propaganda is going on. But nobody understands that they are themselves fallible. A real shelter is only in Krishna, because he is the infallible one. He is the Achyuta. He never fails in protecting his devotees. So Prabhupada writes in the purport how this world is the world of death. Everywhere, everyone from Brahma to ant. Which verse? They live only for a few seconds. Struggle for existence is going on. Brahma bhavana loka punaravartino Arjuna. So this life is a sort of fight with material nature which imposes death. So therefore in this human form there is struggle. Although, Prabhupada writes, although he is sufficiently experienced in the matter, by dint of past experience, previous examples of his diseased predecessors, he does not see that the so-called fighting soldiers are all fallible. Nobody will survive. So that's how foolish. So sense gratification makes one dull to the realities of life. The more we are engrossed, the more we can't see things happening properly. So that is how that is how, a person, when he comes in the mode of goodness, he can see things
समझ रहे अभी
properly.
थोड़े?
So that is the mode of goodness. So mode of goodness gives knowledge. Sattvat sanjayate dhyanam. And all the gates get illuminated by this knowledge. That's what Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyad vivriddham sattvam ityuta. When the mode of goodness increases, every gate, all our 9 gates get illuminated with knowledge. That means we see right things, we hear right things, we eat right things. So that's how our knowledge helps us to do right things. But the more one engages in sense gratification, he goes in the mode of passion and ignorance. So therefore, he cannot see things properly. Pashyan api na pashyati. So therefore, second, third, fourth, Shukdev Goswami is telling it is not worth spending life in this way, because it is a very, very fallible game. Chakravarti Thakur writes, the body and other things, they are like one's army for fighting against time. But they are themselves false. They are asatta. Because soul has no relationship with any of them. Neither body nor relatives. Prabhupada writes after a few lines. Last paragraph. The whole material advancement of human civilization is like decoration of a dead body. Everyone is a dead body flapping for a few days. And yet all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. So therefore, Shukdev Goswami is pointing out the duty of a person is not to just maintain the body. So then what to do? Karna kya hai? That he describes in the next verse. Therefore, Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishwaro Harihi
भगवान ईश्वरो हरि
Tavyah Kirtitavyascha
कीर्तितव्यश्च
Smartavyascha Ichchata Bhayam.
कर्तव्यश्च इच्छितामभयम्.
O descendant of King Bharat, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the controller, and the saver from all miseries.
Tasma, therefore, O Bharata, O descendant of King Bharata, Sarvatma, Bhagwan, Ishvara, Hari. 4 things are used here, 4 words. Every word has a meaning here. Why he is using these 4 terms here? Bhagwan, Sarvatma, Bhagwan, Ishwar and Hari. Shrotavyaha, Kirtitavyaha, Smartavyaha. We should hear, remember, and chant if you want fearlessness. Oh Parikshit, if you are fearful, then please remember the names of the Lord. So Lord Hari is the subject. So Chakravarti Thakur describes in detail why these 3 types of 3 words are used here. So by the 3 modifiers, Sarvatma, Bhagwan and Ishvara, 3 types of bhakti are indicated. That with a desire for liberation. If you want liberation, Sarvatma, Paramatma in the heart. Bhagwan, if you want to connect to Bhagwan by Raganuga Bhakti, there is a Bhagwan feature. And Ishwara means for Vaidhi Bhakta, Ishwara. So first he says, the Lord who is Paramatma, who is Sarvatma, he should be heard by a person who desires liberation. Jisko mukti chahiye, remember Paramatma. Mukti and Abhaya. If you want liberation and if you want Abhaya, remember Paramatma. If you want Bhagwan, then It should be heard about by persons who is greedy about becoming fixed in devotion. That is the abhaya. For a Raganuga Bhakta, what is fear? I should not forget. I should always remember Krishna. That is the fear of a Raganuga Bhakta. Spontaneous. The fear is that, will I develop spontaneous attraction for the Lord? That is a fear. And Ishvara, that means a controller. This is for sadhakas. What is the fear of a sadhaka? The fear of sadhaka is, will I be able to control my senses? So Shukdev Goswami is saying, either you want Paramatma or Bhagwan or you are a Vaidhi Bhakta, just remember the Lord, chant the names of the Lord. So Shukdev Goswami says, don't worry, Lord is Ishvara, he will control your senses. If you are a Vaidhi Bhakta, Lord is Ishvara. If you want a Raganuga Bhakta, he is a Bhagwan. And if you are a Paramatma Vadi, he is Paramatma, he is Sarvatma. So that's how Lord controls our senses. We don't have to be worried about that. In 10th canto, it is described when Krishna is all with his all cowherd friends and Brahmaji steals all the calves. So they are eating, they are enjoying their lunch, and then as soon as they realize calves are gone, so they are very fearful. Now they are back because that is the source of their livelihood. So Krishna, he consoles them. Don't worry. Tan drishtva bhaya santrastan uche krishnasya bhibhayam mitrani ashan ma viramate iha nishyevatsakanaham. O mitro, O my friends, tan drishtva, he saw bhaya santrastan, very fearful. Uche Krishna, ucha means he spoke. Uchuhu, he spoke. Bhi mitrani ashan ma viramate, don't fear and don't stop eating. You continue your service of eating food, eating prasad. I will bring the senses back. I will bring the cows back. So Krishna is giving us assurance. If we continue doing our services regularly, Krishna will bring our senses back. We have to just endeavor to focus on our services. So that's how Shukdev Goswami very nicely, he speaks everything in this one for everyone, because in that assembly, why Shukdev Goswami is talking about all this Bhagwan, Paramatma? Because in the assembly, not everybody is a Bhakta. There was some Paramatma Vadi, there was some Jnani, there are Yogi, everybody is sitting there. So therefore, he wants to attract everyone that is a good speaker. He speaks something that will appeal to everyone. Otherwise, somebody will be not interested. ये तो अपने लिए है ही नहीं. शुरू में ही बोल देंगे, pure devotional service is the only way. So then those who are Paramatma Vadis, those who are Jnanis, they will say, ठीक है, हम जा रहे हैं, हमारे लिए कभी नहीं. So that's why in the beginning only he is speaking like this. So Prabhupada writes that a living being is entangled in the 84 lakh species of life, and then if one desires to come out of this, there is only one way. One should first of all hear about the Lord. When one has perfectly and scrutinizingly heard, one must glorify. And thus, it will be possible to remember constantly. So it all begins with hearing. And then, Shravana ke baad, Kirtanam. So if you do Shravanam and Kirtanam, naturally you will remember things. So that's how Prabhupada in the beginning days in ISKCON, just few weeks have passed by, and Prabhupada one day he says, now, today, some of our devotees will speak. And nobody knows what to speak. So सब लोग सोच रहे हैं अभी क्या बोलना है, बोले आप बोलो, you speak first. And Prabhupada is there listening every word very nicely, and he's, yes, very nicely you're saying. So in the beginning days, devotees didn't know anything. So in New Vrindavan one time, there was one devotee, he had to give Bhagavatam class. And he had not given Bhagavatam class any time. So it was cold there. So pura aisa muffler, pura topi wopi pehen ke, he put, earphones with Prabhupada's class going on. So today we'll discuss, sun raha hai na, thoda pause. So devotees are thinking meditation mein. He is meditating and speaking. We'll discuss about Krishna, who is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he has 6 opulences. So that's how devotees they started giving class, because they didn't know anything. So we all have come from that stage, Shravanam and then Kirtanam. And many times devotees they fear, क्या बोलूंगा, आज तक क्लास दिया ही नहीं कभी, just हाथ पे माइक आने की देर है बस, And when you start speaking, then you can speak for hours and hours. There was one devotee who went to America and he had not given any class. So वहां पे पहुंचा, so that day was Nityan Trayodashi. So he thought maybe I should go and take darshan. So he went there, and then that day after Mangal Aarti and Guru Puja and darshan, everything is done. So everybody is waiting for the speaker. So speaker, this devotee was stuck with some services. So some devotees found it. Prabhuji, आप राधा गोपीनाथ से है ना, so please आप class देंगे क्या आज, नित्यान त्रयोदशी class, and this devotee is a simple devotee, he has not given any class anytime. He said, नहीं प्रभुजी, मैं आज तक class, I have not given any class. नहीं प्रभु, आपने तो इतना सुना है राधानाथ महाराज से, बोलिए कुछ तो, whatever you have heard, speak. So somehow, they made him to sit on the Vyasasana, and then as soon as he opened Bhagavatam, he had blackout, कुछ दिख नहीं रहा है, क्या बोले. So then there was, as he started Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, there was a bulb, वो fuse हो गया. So he got some time. Devotees said, sorry, we'll need some time. जितना time लेना है लो, So in between he prepared something and he started speaking. He spoke for 2 hours without stopping. फिर उनको बोला, प्रभुजी अभी थोड़ा प्रसाद का time हो रहा है, चिट पास किया. So that's how it all begins, with hearing. Prabhupada writes, hearing about and glorifying the Lord are identical with the transcendental nature of the Lord. So by doing so, one will always be in association. This brings freedom from all sorts of fear. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, Prabhupada, Shukdev Goswami is using the word cha, shrotavya, kirtitavya, cha. So what is this cha? So the 2 words cha after chanting and remembering indicates that after hearing, the 2 processes of chanting and hearing should be done at the same time. When you hear, you should chant and remember both together. So that was the answer to the question, what should be heard, chanted and remembered. We should hear about Lord who is Bhagavan, Paramatma and Hari. Okay, then Parikshit Maharaj may say, you have given a very, very sectarian answer. सबको आप बोल रहे हैं भक्ति करो, but not everyone will follow this, because there are others who are jnanis, yogis and karmis. What about them? Because not everybody is a bhakta, right? Why they should practice this? Is it the ultimate practice for all people? Karmis, jnanis, yogis, सबके लिए भी यही करना है क्या? Shukdev Goswami say yes. सबके लिए यही करना है. एतावान सांख्य योगाभ्याम स्वधर्म परिनिष्ठया जन्मलाभ परः पुंसाम् अन्ते नारायण स्मृतिः.
Perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, the practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life.
एतावान सांख्य योगाभ्याम, either by Sankhya, Yoga or Swadharma Pariniष्ठया, or by discharging the duty. Janma labha, the perfection of life is attained only by one way. Either you are a jnani or a yogi or a karmi. Ante Narayana Smriti. That's the only thing everybody has to do. So all the paths lead to the ultimate goal of this Ante Narayana Smriti, because all the paths, they are not complete without bhakti element. Bhakti is the active ingredient in all the paths. Either karma or yoga or a jnana. Bhakti is the active ingredient. If it is not there, the reaction will not happen. Catalyst is only bhakti. So therefore, bhakti is the only active principle. In karma, it is described, Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajan napakko athapate tato yadi yatra ko va bhadram ubhudamushyakim ko vartha apto bhajatam swadharmata. If somebody is practicing his occupational duty very nicely and is not serving Krishna, what is the gain? And if he gives up his occupational duty and is practicing bhakti, but he can't do it properly, what is the loss? So all the paths, they lead only to bhakti. So that is how bhakti is a ultimate. Either one is a jnani or a yogi. In the 10th canto, Brahmaji is praying, Shreya sritim bhakti mudasyate vibho klishyanti ye kevala bodha labdhaye tesham asaukleshala eva shishyate nanyad yatha sthula tushava ghatinam. If a person wants to get liberated, Shreya sriti. Sriti means this material existence. If somebody wants to get liberated by the practice of jnana, and if he is not taking shelter of bhakti, you know what he is doing? He is just beating an empty husk. Nothing will come out. So therefore, Parikshit Maharaj, Shukdeva Goswami is very clearly saying, anything without the help of bhakti will not give any result. So either if somebody is a yogi, tapasvibhyo diko yogi, jnanebhyopi matodhika, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. So there Prabhupada writes, asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. If somebody is just practicing Ashtanga Yoga and not connecting to the bhakti, it is all.
We'll take 2 minutes break after this. I'll change the battery.
Okay. So mere tapasya is of no use. It is said that people, those who follow Ashtanga Yoga, all their Ashtanga Yoga does one thing. It just burns the fat of their body. That's all. Amna ya bhyasana, abhi shlok hai ye, aisa mein. Amna ya bhyasana aranya ruditam veda vratanyanvaham medas cheda falanya purta vidaya sarvam hutam bhasmani. It goes on. He says, Amnaya. Amnaya means all the Vedic scriptures. If somebody is reading all these scriptures and chanting mantras, you know what he is doing? If he is not serving the Lord, he is crying in wilderness. Aranya ruditam. Jungle mein jaake chilla rahe hain, kuch hoga, kuch nahi hoga. All the mantras. It will not help if somebody is not practicing bhakti. And all the vrata, all the fasting one he is doing, it is only for meda cheda. Meda means fat. Fat galane ke liye fasting kar rahe hain bas. Aradito yadi hari tapasa tatah kim, na aradito yadi hari tapasa tatah kim. So that is how. I think CC mein Prabhupada quotes, I'll have to check. We'll take just a break for 1 minute. Kuch battery change kar rahe hain. I'll find out. Amna yabhyasana aranya ruditam meda pratanyam. Okay, so Shukdeva Goswami is describing that this is for everyone. Otherwise, all the yoga, all the jnana, it is of no use. All the jnana is like crying in wilderness. All the yoga is just for burning the fat of the body. So people, when they fast, they may get some health benefits. But if they are not serving Krishna, if they are not remembering all our Ekadashi fasting, if we are not remembering Krishna, if we are just thinking of, abhi Ekadashi mein kya khayenge, Ekadashi mein kaun sa Ekadashi wala aaj हम लोग पिज्जा एकादशी पिज्जा के एकादशी डोसा, मतलब बाहर वालों को ऐसा शौक लगे तो ये फास्टिंग कर रहे हैं. So many times Ekadashi feast is better than our regular. So whatever, no problem in eating prasad, but the understanding is all our fasting should give us time to remember about Krishna more. But if just imagine if we are fasting and thinking, आज ये एकादशी में और क्या बनाएंगे हम? So the entire purpose is defeated. Okay, so Prabhupada writes in one purport there, empiric knowledge without surrender is also imperfect. If somebody is just getting knowledge and not surrendering to the Lord, it is of no use. So for Gyanis, Jnana leads to conception of Aham Brahmasmi. But if he is not serving Krishna, it is of no use. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, Narayan is a personality of Godhead beyond the creation. Everything is created, sustained, and annihilated within the compass of Mahat Tattva. The existence of Narayan is not within the jurisdiction of Mahat Tattva. By the speculation of empiric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, by cultivation of mystic powers. So Prabhupada is just, simple words he is telling, by knowledge by cultivating jnana, or by cultivating yoga, or by cultivating karma. The ultimate stage is to reach Narayana Smriti. This is possible only by association of pure devotees who can give a finishing touch. Prabhupada writes amazing word, finishing touch, to all the activities of jnanis, yogis, and karmis. If the finishing touch is not there, then they will not achieve the perfection. And then Prabhupada gives various examples, how various people who are jnanis, yogis, karmis, they achieved perfection after becoming devotee. Who was a jnani who became devotee? Four Kumaras, they became devotees. Who are the yogis who became devotees? Prabhupada takes the name of Navyogendras. And then who was a karmi who became devotee? Okay, yes. And there was a king called Prachina Barhi. He was also a karmi. But by the association of Narad Muni, he became devotee. So then Parikshit Maharaj, after hearing this, he may say, you have made a great statement that all paths end in bhakti. Any example for this? कोई example है क्या? खाली आप statement पे statement बोल रहे हैं बड़ा बड़ा. प्रायेण मुनयो राजन निवृत्ता विधिषेधतः नैर्गुण्यस्थारमन्ते स्म गुणानुकथने हरेः.
O King Parikshit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord.
Prayena, generally, Prayena means mostly, almost. Praya, where this word Praya comes? Anybody remembers any verse where this word Praya? Prayena Alpayusha, okay. Praya means almost everybody is Alpayusha. कुछ लोग ज्यादा जी जाते हैं. प्राय मीन्स ऑलमोस्ट ऑल. उसमें ना एक और वर्स आता है, नष्ट प्रायेषु अभद्रेषु. ऑलमोस्ट ऑल अनर्थas are destroyed, but some tinge of anarthas they remain till the stage of bhava also. They get purified in due course of time. So prayena, mostly all the transcendentalists, the topmost transcendentalists who are nivritta, they are detached, vidhishedhataha. They are above all the vidhis, regulative principles and restrictions. You know what they do? Nirgunyastharamante, they are beyond. They also hear the names of the Lord. They also chant the names of the Lord. You are saying any example, almost everybody does like that. You are asking for one example. Everybody, almost all the transcendentalists, after they become detached, they do this only. No, everybody. Jnanis, yogis, karmis, after they become purified, because that's what Shukadeva Goswami said in the last verse, right? Etavan Sankhya Yoga Abhyam Swadharma. Everybody has to do this only. Ante Narayana Smriti. Any example? बोलते हैं सब लोग ऐसा ही करते हैं. Anybody who has achieved perfection has to do this. So Prabhupada Chakravarti Thakur writes, the perfection is to realize the sweetness of the qualities and form of the Lord. That is far superior than merging in Brahman. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So he emphasizes the word prayena. The word generally is used because some Jivan Muktas perform glorification of the Lord's qualities in order to merge in Brahman. कुछ लोग ब्रह्मन में मर्ज भी करते हैं, but generally everybody remembers Krishna to attain perfection of life. So after hearing this, so Prabhupada writes, the topmost transcendentalist is a liberated soul and is therefore not within the purview of regulative principles. Atma ramascha munayo nirgrantha api urukrame kurvanti ahetuki bhakti. That will also come in this section only. After a few lines, Prabhupada writes, the topmost transcendentalists realize him by advanced experience of transcendental service, transcendental knowledge, and therefore they take pleasure in discussion of the Lord's qualities. And then Prabhupada continues that how a transcendentalist is not interested in anything material. He only deals with spiritual sound vibration. He is not interested in anything material of this world. So then, after hearing this, Parikshit Maharaj is not living Shukadeva Goswami. Hey, any specific example? आप बोल रहे हैं सब लोग ऐसा ही करते हैं, एक नाम तो बताओ. Tell me one name. He says, you have made a very controversial statement that all karmis, all jnanis, all yogis, they have to take shelter of bhakti only for perfection. And this prayan is a very generic term. I want a specific answer. Kaun hai? So Shukadeva Goswami said, why to give anyone else's example? I am that example. Idam Bhagavatam nama Puranam Brahma Sammitam Adhitavan Dwaparado Pitur Dvaipayanadaham.
At the end of the Dwapar Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagvatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father, Srimad Vaibhav Vyasadi.
So Idam Bhagavatam Nama, this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, it is Purana, Brahma Sammitam, it is equal to all the Vedas. Adhitavan, I studied. When? Dwaparadav. So technically, the meaning of the word Adav means in the beginning. But the word translation says at the end. So that is an interesting word. Adhitavan Dwaparadav. Kisse sikha? Pitur Dvaipayana. Vyasdev has taught me in the end of Dwapar Yuga. So why the Adav word is used? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur clarifies. And Prabhupada also quotes it in the purport. So if somebody says, see the tree from beginning to end, kahan se dekhenge? So that's how, the words are, deceptive. It can mean, Adav means, as soon as it was about to end, that was the beginning of the end of Dwapar Yuga. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, since Vyasdev appeared in Saraswati not long before Krishna's appearance, he could not appear at the beginning of Dwapar Yuga. So Dwapara means end of Dwapara, and Dwaparado means beginning of the last part of Dwapara. So that's how, every yuga has three parts: Yuga Sandhya, and then the main yuga. So 1/12 in the beginning, 1/12 in the end. That is the Yuga Sandhya. And then in the middle part is the actual yuga. So Dwaparadav means the beginning of the end of Dwapar Yuga. So I studied this Bhagavatam, which is Brahma Sammitam. It is the great supplement of Vedic literature. So Prabhupada writes that he is giving his own example, and Prabhupada glorifies Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam cannot be studied at home by one's own intellectual capacity. Just like medical books of anatomy, physiology, they are available in the market, but no one becomes qualified medical practitioner simply by reading at home. One has to be admitted in the medical college. Similarly, Bhagavatam, the postgraduate study, can only be learned by studying it at the feet of realized soul. But nowadays in India, everybody thinks, हम भी जानते हैं, हमने भी पढ़ा है, हम भी चतुर्वेदी हैं, 4 वेद पढ़े हैं, you know. कभी कभी टैक्सी हमको भी लेक्चर सुन के आना पड़ता है, और टैक्सी वाला चालू करता है, महाराज हम भी ब्राह्मण हैं, शुरू करता है वो, you know. So that's how. But there, because there is no university to teach this knowledge. Although Shukdev Goswami was a liberated soul, still he had to take lessons from his father. Lord Chaitanya instructed a learned Brahmana to study Bhagavatam from a person Bhagavat. Yaha Bhagavat pada Vaishnavera sthane. You know, read Bhagavatam, study Bhagavatam by going to a Bhagavatam. Ekant ashray kar tahara charane. Just take shelter of the devotee of the Lord. So that's how Bhagavatam is based on transcendental name, form, pastimes of the Lord. And it was spoken in the beginning of Dwapar, end of Dwapar Yuga. So Prabhupada elaborates on this, Brahma Samhitam. So Bhagavad Gita is sound of Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam is sound, it is spoken by the Lord, and Bhagavatam is spoken about the Lord. So that is how Prabhupada in the end he elaborates on this Adav, the beginning of Dwapar Yuga. The logic of this statement according to Srila Jiva Goswami is comparable to that of calling the upper portion of the tree the beginning. The root of the tree is beginning, but in common knowledge, upper portion is first seen. So therefore it can be called as beginning. So Parikshit Maharaj is thinking, I am asking you who is the specific example and you are telling me you studied Bhagavatam. How this answers my question? So Shukdev Goswami says, please hear my history. हिस्ट्री सुनो मेरा, तब आपको समझेगा ये आंसर क्या है. परिनिष्ठितोऽपि नैर्गुण्य उत्तम श्लोक लीलया गृहीत चेता राजर्षे आख्यानं यदधीतवान्.
Saintly King, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses.
Parinishthitopi nairgunya, I was absorbed in Brahman. Tasya putro mahayogi samdrin nirvikalpaka ekantmati unnidro gudho mudhi iveyate. 4th chapter, 1st canto. You know, all the sages are asking, Shukdev Goswami is a mahayogi, samdrin nirvikalpaka, established in monism. And then as he was walking by, the naked girls were taking bath and he didn't even care to, they didn't even care to cover them. And when Vyasdev passed by, started covering them. Drishtvanu rishimatmajamapyanagnam devyarya paradaduna sutasya chitram tadviksha prichati munau jagadustavaste stripum vidhanatu sutasya vivikta drishte. That was my background, Shukdev Goswami is saying. Parinishtitopi. But Uttama Shloka Leelaya. So he's saying, I was so absorbed, I didn't come out of the mother's womb for 16 years. I was so very scared. But as soon as I heard Uttama Shloka Leela, I was attracted. Grihita Cheta, my consciousness was attracted. As soon as I heard. And I gave up Brahman and I became devotee. Akhyanam yadadhitavan. So that's how I am that example. A person who was absorbed in monism, he also became devotee. So Prabhupada writes, by the grace of the Lord, an impersonalist is enlightened by superior statements of Bhagavatam and he is converted into a transcendental devotee. With a poor fund of knowledge, we cannot adjust to the idea of personality of God. The personal activities of the Lord are deplored by less intelligent impersonalists. So Prabhupada was very much against these impersonalists, Mayavadis. One time a Mayavadi group came and they left some of their pamphlets in the temple and they left. So Prabhupada, the devotees told them, Prabhupada, some Mayavadis, they have left this. So we'll use it, you know. Breakfast na uske upar serve karke do. You know? That is a proper utilization of that Mayavadi literature. So Prabhupada was very much, against all these Mayavadis. Because we can't understand itna kya gussa kar rahe Prabhupada. That was the thinking of initial devotees. लगता है इन लोगों ने ना प्रभुपाद के साथ अच्छा नहीं किया कुछ इंडिया में. That's why Prabhupada is so very angry. But for Prabhupada, there's a question of if somebody is your near and dear and other person saying that person has no form, it is so very painful to hear. So that is a pure devotee. When a pure devotee hears that Lord has no form, it is so very painful to him. So that's why Prabhupada was very heavy. And wherever he gets a chance, he doesn't leave it. He thoroughly thrashes the philosophy of impersonalism. And then he says, that same Bhagavatam I shall recite to you now. Tadham te abhidhasyami mahapaurushiko bhavan yasya shraddha damashu syan mukunde mati satihi.
That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation.
So hearing that, I heard this Bhagavatam from my father Vyasdev. Parikshit Maharaj, he gets a desire. I also want that. I should also attain that rare thing. So therefore I desire that. Please, you make me taste it. So seeing the eagerness, Shukdev Goswami speaking this verse. Tadaham te abhidhasyami. That very Bhagavatam I shall recite to you. Because you are Mahapaurushiko, you are the most sincere devotee of Krishna. Oh, Bhavan. He's giving all the respect. Bhavan is a respectable address. Twam means tum. Bhavan means aap. So that's how Arjuna changes his address in 10th, 11th chapter. नहीं, वो उसमें 11th chapter में पहले कृष्ण को त्वाम बोलते हैं. I don't remember the exact verse. But then after seeing the universal form, he says, Bhavan, वो भगवान से शुरू करते हैं. I forgot the verse. That's how, he transformed he changed his address. So he's saying Bhavan, Yasya Shraddha Dadamashu, one who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, achieves unflinching faith. In whom? Syan Mukunde Mati, in the Supreme Lord. So Shukdev Goswami says, you are the person who should attain Krishna. Who is Mahapurusha? That is how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes. So Mahapaurushika has two meanings. Prabhupada writes, Mahapaurushika means you are the most sincere devotee of Krishna. Chakravarti Thakur says, you should attain Krishna, who is Mahapurusha, who is a supreme person. So that is how the two meanings of the same word. Prabhupada writes about Aroha Pantha and Avaroha Pantha. So all the scientific knowledge is Aroha Pantha, ascending knowledge. Keep on experimenting and then they say, okay, एक साल जो हमने सुना वो गलत था, अभी नया information आया है. We are advancing in science. That's what it is, science. But Avaroha Pantha means all research already done and report published. That is the scriptures. So no need to do extra endeavor. Prabhupada writes amazing things. The process should not, however, be misunderstood to be something like magical feats, whereby the spiritual master acts like a magician and injects spiritual knowledge into his disciple, as if surcharging him with an electric current. So there was one, we all know who is Prabhupada talking about. Malum hai? So the bona fide spiritual master reasonably explains everything to the disciple on the authorities of Vedic wisdom. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, very important line Prabhupada writes here. The disciple can receive such teachings not exactly intellectually, but by submissive inquiry. So that is very, very important. Submissive inquiry is very important. It is not just intellectual understanding. Knowledge becomes realization by service. Otherwise, if we just hear and we don't serve, that knowledge will just remain in head. It will not go to the heart. So the knowledge becomes realization when we serve. Service attitude is more important. Both spiritual master and disciple must be bona fide. Spiritual master Shukdev Goswami is ready to recite exactly what he heard from Vyasdev. A devotee of Lord is he who believes sincerely that by becoming a devotee, one can become fully equipped with everything spiritual. So that is called as unflinching faith. So Prabhupada is elaborating on this word, Shraddha. So faith is the active ingredient. We should have that faith, and all the processes of bhakti, we are doing it just to increase our faith. That's only dhan we are trying to get. The Shraddha mulye shuddha naam sehate te bikai. Bhakti Thakur writes, Surabhi kunje te namir hat kuleche. Aage Shraddha mulye shuddha naam sehate te bikai. Only price you have to pay is Shraddha. Shraddha chahiye. So whatever we are doing is Shraddha Dhama. So if we have that faith, then Krishna will enter in the heart. The professional reciter of Bhagavatam and the pseudo devotees whose faith is based on 1 week's hearing. Prabhupada was very much against the Bhagavat Sapta. Prabhupada ko ekdam sun ke gussa aata hai. Sapta means what? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. What is this 1 week Bhagavat Sapta? And then Prabhupada writes about this. Lord Krishna is described as Mahapurusha in 11th canto. We'll recite this verse beautifully. Beautiful verse. We can recite together. Dheyam sada paribhavagnam abhishta doham Ethaspadam shiva virinchinutam sharanyam Vrityartihan pranatapala bhavabdi potam Vande Mahapurushate Sharanarvindam Swadastya surepsita rajya lakshmim Dharmishta arya vachasaya dagadaranyam Maya mrigam daitayipsitamanvadhavat Vande Mahapurushate Charanarvindam. So we all know this verse, it applies to Krishna also, Ram also, Mahaprabhu also, and we can apply it to Prabhupada also. So that's how it is. So Mahapurusha. So Prabhupada quotes this verse. And then Prabhupada elaborates something about Mahapurusha. One who deserves to serve the Supreme Lord is called as Mahapaurushika. Anyone who hears Bhagavatam attentively from a bona fide reciter is sure to become a pure devotee. And then after a few lines, Prabhupada describes how when devotional service means Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, and then therefore Gautam Muni advised Amrish Maharaj to hear regularly Bhagavatam. Last few lines. One who is actually interested in Bhagavatam must not play with it by reading or hearing a portion from here and a portion from there. One must follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Ambarish and Parikshit and hear from bona fide representative. So don't jump from one thing to other. I like this, I like that. Okay, it is good to read one section just because you want to hear it more. But because I like that only, Prabhupada then elaborates on how people, they go only on the Raslila pastimes, they just leave all the other things. That is not recommended. And then after telling this, Shukdev Goswami says, well, I told in the 5th verse, Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smartavya, of these 3, which is the best? That he says in the 11th verse. Etan nirvidyamananam Ichchatam akuto bhayam Yoginam nripanirnitam Harer namanu kirtanam.
Okay. Constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from all material desires, those who are desirous of all material enjoyment, and all those who are self-sacrificed by dint of transcendental knowledge.
So therefore, Shukdev Goswami says, in this scripture, Bhagavatam, there are so many angas are described, but the chief one which stands out as the emperor of all is Harir Nama Anukirtanam. Anukirtan is also very important. Constant chanting. Etan Nirvidyamananam, those who are free from material desires. Ichchatam Akuto Bhayam, and who are desirous of material enjoyment. Those who are yoginam, those who are self-satisfied, the sure short way, which is declared by all the great sages and authorities. Nrip nirnitam, nirnay kar diya hai. It is nirnay, it is nirnita. It is already prescribed by great authorities. What is that? Harer nam anukirtanam, chanting, constant chanting. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, among the angas of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and Smaranam, these are the chief ones. Among the 9 limbs, chief one are hearing, chanting, and remembering. And of these, chanting is the chief. So in chanting, now, he elaborates more. In chanting, there are many types of chanting. Guna Kirtan, Lila Kirtan, Nama Kirtan. So what is the best? He says Anukirtan is the best. So what is that? Chanting the names according to one's bhakti. That is the best. That means, or it can also mean continuous chanting. So he gives 2 meanings. Anukirtanam. So Anukirtan means chanting according to one's devotion or chanting continuously. And he says, I am not the only one who is speaking this. This is established by previous acharyas. Nripa nirnitam, O king, nirnay, already nirnit hai, not just by me. Anyone who wants abhayam, ichchatam, akuto abhaya. Because there is, in chanting, there is no fear of impurity. This is a fearless way of doing things. No fear. Aparadh hoga, kuch hoga. No major rules and regulations. Anybody can chant anytime, any place, anyone. That's how it is recommended. It is recommended for the unalloyed devotees and Nirvidyamananam is, Chakravarti Thakur is elaborating on that. Nirvidyamananam, those who are free from all the desires, unke liye bhi hai. And those who are desirous of swarga, unke liye bhi hai, for them. Yoginam, those who want liberation, for them also. So for everybody, chanting is the way. So then Prabhupada also elaborates on the same principles, how for materialists, for yogis, for jnanis, everybody gets benefited by the practice of chanting. In this verse, Shukdev Goswami recommends that transcendental chanting of the Lord. Shukdev Goswami recommends the transcendental chanting of the Lord. By offenseless chanting and hearing the names of the Lord, one becomes acquainted with the form of the Lord, and then with the attributes, and then with the pastimes. That is very important, Prabhupada writing here. How our realization grows by the practice of Krishna consciousness. It all begins with chanting. We first realize the name, and then the name will reveal the Rupa, and then the Rupa will reveal the Guna, and then Guna will reveal the Leela. So that's how whenever somebody would ask Prabhupada, while chanting, what we should do? Just hear. When we hear, then slowly the Rupa will automatically manifest. We don't have to artificially remember some form of the Lord. And when we see the Rupa of the Lord, naturally the Gunas will be manifested. So that's how Prabhupada writes. This means that hearing from the authorities is the first essential. This process is recommended not only for successful execution of devotional service, but also even for those who are materially attached. Everybody gets benefited by the process of bhakti. So that's how Bhagavatam is for everyone. It is not just for pure devotees, it is for everyone. सुखाय कर्माणि करोति लोको न तये सुखं वान्यदुपारमं वा विन्देत भूयः तत एव दुःखं यदत्र उक्तं भगवान् वदेन्नः. Vidura is asking Maitreya, oh Vidur, oh Maitreya Muni, people in this world, they are working for sukha, but they get dukkha. Na तय सुखम सुख मिलता नहीं है, and they get more dukkha. Please speak about this transcendental literature. So that's how Bhagavatam can dispel the material miseries also, and Bhagavatam can give pure devotion also. That's how Bhagavatam is for everyone.
तो फिर फर्स्ट कैंटो में सेकंड वर्स जो है परमहंस का वो
Nirmatsaranam satam, they can relish Bhagavatam. For sadhakas, they can't relish Bhagavatam. It is like a person who is jaundiced. For them, it is a medicine. Maja nahi aa raha hai, na? But still, karna hai. Sula mala karna hai, for us karna hai. But they want to chant. That's how we advance, from I have to chant, to I want to chant, to I like to chant. So for sadhakas, it is Bhagavatam padhna hai. Bola hai to padhna padega. That's how they have to. So that's why it is medicine for them. For a Shuddha Bhakta, it is a sugarcane juice. He is cured of jaundice. Syat Krishna nama charitapi sitapya vidya pitto patapta sanasya narochikano kintva dharadanu dinam khalu seva jushta swadvikramad bhavati. That's how. So Nirmatsaras, they can relish Bhagavatam. For a sadhaka, they take it as a medicine. Okay. And then Prabhupada in the purport, he describes the 10 offenses. The holy name has come, so Prabhupada describes the 10 offenses, which are mentioned in Padma Puran. Okay, we'll not go into the detail of that. So although Shukdev Goswami is saying Kirtan is the best, so why he didn't allow Parikshit Maharaj just to do Kirtan for 7 days? Itna Bhagavatam kyun suna hai? Harinam na, Harer naam anu Kirtana. 7 दिन बोले चलो सब कीर्तन मंडली को बुलाओ, 7 दिन हम लोग कीर्तन करने वाले हैं. Why? It is described in one of the 10th canto purports. Parikshit Maharaj had arranged for, Kirtan Mandali also. Why? Because, while speaking, sometimes Shukdev Goswami goes into ecstasy. तो जन्मेजय को बोल के रखा है, भाई ये ecstasy में जाएंगे ना, जोर से बजाना, उठें वापस बाहर आते हैं. Because, whenever Shukdev Goswami goes into ecstasy, and he went into ecstasy twice in Bhagavatam while speaking. एक तो है जब ये Parikshit Maharaj asks about Brahma Vimohan Leela, he goes into ecstasy. And another I am not remembering. वो कब जाते ecstasy में जाते हैं, I forgot. So he had told Janmejay, and he was, Chakravarti Thakur writes all that. He is there with all Mridang, Kartal sitting, and Parikshit Maharaj pointed, bajao, ecstasy mein gaye. Because Shukdev Goswami, he goes into ecstasy for 6 months. एक बार ecstasy में गए तो समाधि में मतलब 6 महीना. That's why Shukdev Goswami didn't take the name of Radha. Because he was thinking, Parikshit hit krit muni. If I take the name of Radha Rani and I go into ecstasy, he has only 7 days left. So कौन भागवतम सुनाएगा इनको? So that's why purposefully he didn't take the name of Radha. There's a verse, मैं भूल गया वो verse. That Radha nama matrina murcha sanmasiki bhavet. Therefore, he didn't take the name. 6 mahine murcha. So Parikshit Maharaj, why he didn't allow? Why he didn't tell, okay, हम लोग कीर्तन करेंगे बैठ के, हाँ, सब लोग चलो, सब सिंगर लोग को बुला लो. 7 days कीर्तन. Because if kirtan is done without faith, it will not give the result. Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapas taptam kritam chayat asat ityuchyate partha nacha tat pretya no iha. 17 point, last verse, 28 I think. Ashraddha, without faith, anything you do, hutam, yagya, dattam, dan, tapa, kritam chayat, anything you do, asat ityuchyate, it will not give the result. So therefore, one mantra chanted with faith is more important than millions of mantras chanted without faith. So Parikshit Maharaj was, Shukdev Goswami told this whole Bhagavatam so that he can remember Lord with faith. So faith is the active ingredient and it makes the bhakti perfect. So therefore, Shukdev Goswami made him hear 7 days so that he can chant that one mantra properly. And then he says, if you want to be fearless, then please chant the names of the Lord. Otherwise, what is the use of 100 years of life? So Parikshit Maharaj may say, "Arey, process is perfect, but मेरे पास तो केवल 7 ही दिन है. I have only 7 days." Shukdev Goswami says, "Arey, why 7 days? 1 moment is enough." Kim pramatasya bahubhi parokshayirhayaneriha varam muhurtam viditam ghatate shreyase yataha.
The value of a prolonged life which is wasted inexperienced by years in this world. Better a moment of full consciousness because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest.
So 12, 13, 14, 3 verses describe that quality of life matters, not quantity. Kim pramatasya bahubhir. What is the value of prolonged life which is wasted? Pramatta, wasted in bewilderment. Parokshayi hayane iha. In this world, iha, if somebody is inexperienced and he wastes his life, what is the use? Better than that, varam means better. Muhurtam, better than that is a moment of viditam, full consciousness. Of what? Consciousness of Krishna. Ghatate shreyase yataha, because that gives one a start in searching for his supreme interest. So that's how 1 moment is enough. Now, for example, if someone is given a library full of books and he doesn't know which book to read, and what is the use, then what's the purpose? Pura library leke kya fayda, That's how, in IIT, somebody was telling that sometimes they announce open book exam. Professor bolte hain, open book exam. जहां से देखना है, कुछ भी देखना है लिखो. Then students are thinking, किधर है ये क्वेश्चन, कौन सा बुक रेफर करो, वही मालूम नहीं है. So what is the use if you don't know the subject matter? So just one book is sufficient to read and give exam, but वो एक book किधर है पूरा library में, वो ढूंढने के लिए 1 साल लगता है. So that's how Parikshit Maharaj, Shukdev Goswami says that what is the use of long life wasted? So Prabhupada writes, Shukdev Goswami instructed Maharaj Parikshit about the importance of chanting by every progressive gentleman in order to encourage the king who had only 7 days. Shukdev Goswami asserted that there is no use of living hundreds of years. Even trees live for hundreds of years. What's the big thing? The sages, they will tell in the 2nd chapter. What is that verse? Even trees live for hundreds of years. What is the use of such life? I will get verse. Anyways. So the long life is not required. You see, in the history of our mankind, all the big personalities, they didn't live for long. Shankaracharya lived for 31 years only. Jesus Christ also lived for short only. I don't know the exact. Maybe. And Mahaprabhu lived for 48 years only. So the quantity of life is not important. The quality of life is more important. What we do in that time period. So Prabhupada writes, if somebody is just engaged in animal propensities of eat, drink, and be merry, they are simply wasting their lives. We should know in perfect consciousness that human life is bestowed to achieve perfect spiritual success. And that is easily possible by chanting the names of the Lord. So Prabhupada again mentions the offenses in this purport also. And then Prabhupada writes, Jiva Goswami has described about the offenses against the holy names. So the remaining paragraph is about the offenses only. So that's how chanting of the holy names is the most important thing, and anybody can do. And Prabhupada describes we should chant without offenses, and then Prabhupada writes, the powerful holy name of the Lord can certainly deliver one from sinful effects, but one who desires to utilize this transcendental potency of the holy names in one's sinister activities is most degraded. Which offense is this? Seventh offense. Okay. So then Parikshit Maharaj may say, well, this may be figurative. You know, आप बोल रहे हैं, एक moment is sufficient, one moment is sufficient. It may look figurative, you know, just like sometimes speakers, they have this right to exaggerate things, you know, थोड़ा बना देते हैं, you know. Just like if you have to give a book distribution talk, and end May, it's like yesterday we had a celebration in our temple, book distribution case, so joy parties guys. So one devotee was telling that, one time we were doing book distribution in one street, and police was there standing, and that place was famous for boys troubling all the ladies. So these police, they caught two men, and they really gave them good sauce. And वो पुलिस स्टेशन से निकल के वापस आ रहे तो बोले भगवत गीता खरीद के जा, पुलिस वाला बोल रहा है भगवत गीता खरीद के जा. So one devotee was saying, उसके बाद वहां पे एंड हो गया. But if you want to add spice to it, and after reading Bhagavad Gita, they became pure devotees. They started chanting. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, this may look figurative, एक moment is sufficient. So Shukdev Goswami says, no, it is not figurative. Actually, it is the case. And he gives a case study. Khatvango nama rajarsher gyatavyetami hayushaha muhurtat sarvam utsrijya gatavan abhayam harim.
At once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the Supreme Sanctity, the personality of God.
So there was a saintly king, Khatvanga, Gyatav. When he came to know, so he was fighting for the Devatas, we all know the story. And then after he won, so he asked the Devatas, they were ready to give any benediction. So he said, how much time do I have? They said, 2 muhurtas. 2 ही मुहूर्त है आपके पास. So he said, okay, please transfer me to earth in 1 muhurta. And then in 1 muhurta, he remembered the Lord and he perfected his life. Gyatav Vetam Ihayusha, when he came to know that he has only 1 moment, muhurtat, in 1 muhurta. 1 muhurta is how much? 48 minutes. Muhurtat Sarvam Utsrijya. He gave up everything, all the material activities, and took shelter of the Lord, Gatavan Abhayam Harim. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes the detail of Khatvanga. Khatvanga was on the side of Devatas. He conquered the demons. Devatas were pleased and they asked for benediction. Ask him. So he said, first, please tell me how much more time I have to live. They answered, you have only 1 moment. He was silent. Quickly he came to earth and surrendered to the Lord. Why in earth? Udhar bhi naam le sakte the, udhar bhi yaad kar sakte the. Because in heaven there is so much of sense gratification available. I can't take risk, So therefore he told, I want to go down. Because there is so much of sense gratification available. As they say, Atishay Undriya Utsavat. So so there is so much, so these devatas, they are praying to the Lord. Kim dushkarairna kratubhistapo vratai dana dibhirva dujayena falguna na yatra narayana pada pankaja smriti pramushtati shayendriya utsavat. So they are saying, oh my Lord, we have done so much of dushkara tapasya, dana vrata, sab karke we have come to heaven. Dana dibhirva dujayena falguna. But what is the problem here? Na yatra narayana pada pankaja smriti. We cannot remember Krishna here. We cannot remember your lotus feet. Why? अतिशय इंद्रिय उत्सवात, इंद्रियों का उत्सव चल रहा है, बहुत सारा sense gratification is going on here. So therefore he said, please, I want to go down. So that's how one moment is sufficient. Somebody can read the purport.
A fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not heavy. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. Human life is meant for preparing ourselves for the prime duty. Maharaja Katwanga is mentioned herein as a saintly king because even within the responsibility of the state management, he was not at all forgetful of the prime duty of life. Such was the case with other Rajarishis, saintly kings, like Maharaja Yudhishthira and Maharaja Parikshit. They were all exemplary personalities on account of their being alert in discharging their prime duty.
Okay. So interesting thing is, we just hear about Khatwang Maharaj who remembered Krishna at the time of death, but we don't hear his whole lifetime of devotion. So because he must have done the devotional service his whole life, that's why he could remember at the time of death, he could make that decision. I want to leave everything. Otherwise, as a whole year, if you are not studying, if you are not preparing for a Bhakti Vaibhav exam, अभी बोल रहे हैं, यहाँ पे those who are online, there is a proposal. यहाँ पे सब offline devotees, they are saying we want क्या बोलते हैं, full Canto का भी exam चाहिए. So anybody interested? No, just for information. बाद में हम लोग discuss करेंगे इस पे, नहीं तो यहाँ पे revolt हो जाएगा. So if we are not reading whole year, then a student cannot think I'll pass. So because these kings, Parikshit Maharaj, Yudhishthir, they were living their life for Krishna. That's why they could give up everything. 15th chapter we heard how Pandavas, they left everything. Immediately, as soon as they heard that Krishna has departed, okay, we'll also go. मतलब सोचने का जरूरत ही नहीं है, अभी क्या करना है अभी, अभी रहें या जाएं, departed. So that's how it is. Okay. So then Prabhupada gives the story of Khatwang Maharaj. That's how he attained perfection. And then Shukdev Goswami says, Arey, you have not 1 moment, you have 7 days. Khatwang Maharaj had only 1 moment. You have 7 days. Tavape tarhi kauravya saptaham jivitavadhihi upakalpaya tatsarvam tavad yat samparayikam.
Now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life.
So Shukdev Goswami is saying, Arey, you have 7 days. It is not just, a question of 1 moment. You have 7 days. So you can definitely perfect your life. Tavapi etarhi kauravya, O Kuru, O person born of Kuru dynasty, saptaham, you have 7 days to live. Upakalpya, so get them performed. So perform devotional service and attain the perfection of life. So that's how Shukdev Goswami, tells Parikshit Maharaj that you have to practice bhakti. Prabhupada writes, last few lines of the purport, everyone can best prepare himself for the next life simply by hearing Bhagavatam. The rituals are not formal, but there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out. So that's how he ends this discussion. So now, having said so, Shukdev Goswami, he doesn't like to make it a dogmatic thing that you have to accept because I am saying so. Because there are many sages who are Gyanis, who are Yogis, who are Karma Mishra Yogis. Shukdev Goswami now, from 15th verse onwards, he opens up the discussion to tell why Bhakti is the supreme. So now what he is going to do is, he is going to compare the process of Bhakti with other processes. So he'll compare with Ashtanga Yoga, he'll compare with Jnana Yoga. And by comparing this, he will prove that Bhakti is the supreme, he is the top, Bhakti is the topmost sadhan, and Prema is the topmost sadhya. So that he is going to establish. Now he is going to make a comparative study, because unless you have something to compare, because that is our problem. Because we have got Bhakti without any endeavor, we think, isse badke kuch hoga kya? Because we have not seen the other paths. So therefore, when we are told Bhakti is a supreme, aur kuch bataya nahi humne pehle hai, you are saying Bhakti is a supreme, I want to see everything, right? Then I can decide. So therefore, Shukdev Goswami is giving an option to everyone, and he is giving a comparative study. Bhakti aisa hai, Gyan is this, Ashtanga is this, and then he'll prove. So he is going to discuss the path of liberation by describing Ashtanga Yoga, and he'll give 5 times universal form description. So, why so much of discussion of universal form and the topics of liberation in Bhagavatam? If Bhagavatam is a Paramhamsa Samhita, it is only for Paramhamsas, right? It is a Amala Purana. Why it should have all these other literatures, other topics of liberation, of Ashtanga, of Jnana? It is Amala Purana, it should only have Bhakti. So there are many reasons. There are 5 reasons mentioned, and there may be many more. So first is because Bhagavatam is not only for Paramhamsas, it is for everyone. Anartha upashamam sakshat bhakti yogam adokshaje lokasya ajanato vidvam chakre satvat samhitam. Anartha upashamam, to destroy the anarthas of people, Bhagavatam is written. And Bhagavatam is spoken in such a way that anyone can get benefited. So therefore, it can be tasted by Paramhamsas, but it is beneficial for everyone. Why everything is given in Bhagavatam, not just Bhakti? Because different people have different qualification. Not everybody is qualified for Bhakti. We speak in general classes so many things, but very few come to Krishna consciousness. If we are doing a Bhagavad Gita course, a journey of self-discovery or whatever, we speak the same thing to everyone, but only few become interested and devotees, because not everybody is qualified for Bhakti, because they don't have that Bhakti Sukriti. So therefore, because they don't have that Adhikar as of now. So therefore, Shukdev Goswami wants to bring everyone, and he wants to give a chance to everyone to get attracted to the process of Bhakti. So that's why he is giving everything. Another reason is, any Mahapuran should have 10 topics. What are the 10 topics of Bhagavatam? Atra Sarga, Visargascha, Sthanam, Oshanam, Utaya, Manvantara, Isha, Manukatha,
Nirodha
Mukti Rashraya. So 9 cantos, 9 topics, they focus on the 10th topic, Ashraya. It is like in our altar of Radha Giridhari temple, so many lights are strategically put so that Radha Giridhari can be seen very nicely. Although they don't need to be illuminated, they are self-effulgent. But because our eyes are not, able to see that form, so just to assist our vision, all the lights are put. So all the 9 topics of Bhagavatam, they are just there to glorify and illuminate the 10th topic. What is the next verse? Atra sarga visargasya sthanam poshanam utaya manvantaresha anukatha nirodho muktirashraya dashamasya vishuddhartam navanam iva lakshanam varnayanti mahatmana shrutena arthena cha anjasa. Dashamasya vishuddhartham, to glorify the Dasham topic, all these other 9 topics are given. Navanam iha lakshanam. Varnayanti, they are described by great sages, Shrutena, Arthena, Chanjasa, in various ways. So that's how all these 10 topics have to be there in any Mahapuran. That's why Bhagavatam is Mahapuran. So these 10 topics are there. Sarga and Visarga has to be there. And when we hear these scriptures and when we hear these topics of liberation, it purifies the heart. Mayam varnayato mushya ishwarasya anumodita shranvata shraddhaya nityam mayayatma na muhyati. So that's how we have to understand. And these are prerequisites to understand the higher topics. If we don't understand the basic things, and if somebody says, मुझे ABCD नहीं आता लेकिन मुझे ना ऐसे लिखना है, मुझे बुक लिखना है, यार बुक कैसे लिखेगा, ABCD तो पढ़, you know. If somebody doesn't know 1 + 1 = 2 and he wants to learn trigonometry and calculus, तो कैसे पढ़ेगा? So first understand the basic topics. And Shukdev Goswami writes in the last verse of the 5th canto, description of the universal topics of the universal form of the Lord, they are easier to understand than the 10th canto pastimes of the Lord. We have tough time understanding 2nd canto, 3rd canto, idhar se kya creation ho gaya, kaun sa. But Shukdev Goswami is saying they are easier to understand than the 10th canto. Why? Because to understand that this personality who is acting like a small child, who is stealing butter, who is, you know, dancing with other man's wife, he is a supreme Lord. It is the most difficult thing to accept. To accept Vishnu as a God is very easy. ये इसको तो imitate कर ही नहीं सकते. We can imitate, somebody can imitate ras dancing and stealing butter. Nobody can imitate the creation pastimes of the Lord. They are easy to understand. But it is very difficult to understand the Ras Leela pastimes and the 10th canto pastimes. How Lord comes under the control of devotees. Evam sandarshita yanga harina vrityavashyata. Arey, kaise ho gaya? That's why he is saying 10th canto is difficult. All the other creation topics are easy to understand. हम तो समझ ही नहीं पा रहे तो हम कैसे imitate करेंगे? So that's how it says. Okay, so now he begins. Another popular opinion from the 15th verse, where he gives the path of Bhakti, Mishra, Gyan. Now very technical topics are going to come. So first, to understand what is this Bhakti, Mishra, Gyan, or Gyana, Mishra, Bhakti, Bhakti, Mishra, Yoga, Yoga, Mishra, Bhakti. Anybody would like to tell?
Gyan is less bhakti.
Okay. Okay. And Bhakti Mishra Gyan? Technically, that is called as Jnana Yoga. Okay. Jnana Yoga ka alag, another technical term is Bhakti Mishra Gyan. Because Bhakti is always there. Bhakti Mishra Yoga is Ashtanga Yoga. Bhakti Mishra Karma is Karma Yoga. So now he is about to give Bhakti Mishra Gyan, the path of Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Mishra Gyan. Antakale tu Purusha Agate Gata Sadhvasaha Chindyada Sanga Shastrena Spriham Dehe Nuyechatam.
At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof.
So now he is giving the first step, how one should begin. Antakale tu Purusha. So Shukdev Parikshit Maharaj had asked, what should a dying man do? So now he is asking, Shukdev Goswami is replying, you should perform yoga to enter into Brahman with ease. After giving up the body, you can go to Brahman. Antakale, at the time of death, agate gata sadhvasaha. One should be bold enough not to be afraid of death. Chindyat, cut off all the attachments. Asanga shastrena, kahan pe aata hai word? Dridhena chitva. So one must cut off all the attachment and spriha, everything pertaining to the body. All the desires one should give up and one should attain perfection. That's what one should do at the last stage of one's life. So in this verse, he speaks, Chakravarti Thakur writes, in this verse, Shukdev Goswami speaks of the excellence of yoga process, which was the opinion held by some sages in that assembly. Some were yogis and jnanis. So that's how he's describing this. And then Shukdev's own opinion he will give at the end of the second chapter. अभी नहीं दे रहे हैं, अभी ये क्या बोल रहे हैं? He is giving the opinions of many people who are sitting. At the end of the second chapter, he'll give his opinion. That bhakti is the only way. So Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada doesn't go into the technical explanation. Never. Because he knows we already technical log sunte hain to shut down ho jata hai system. So Prabhupada always gives the bhakti commentary only. Whatever is needed, thoda sa hi denge technical. But we'll discuss so many things from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport because we are reading Bhakti Vaibhav. तो हम लोग अभी रेडी रहिए टेक्निकल स्टफ सुनने के लिए, और अगर ज्यादा हो रहा है तो कोई बात नहीं, यू कैन जस्ट टेक अ नैप इन बिटवीन. ऑनलाइन वालों को तो टेंशन है ही नहीं, ना, कभी भी स्विच ऑफ कर सकते हैं, ऑफ ही है, वीडियोस तो ऑफ ही है. ओके, प्रभुपाद राइट्स, foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making a permanent settlement in this world. He is never not going into the technical detail at all. Prabhupada ने किसको पकड़ा? छिंद्याम असंग शस्त्रेण स्पृहा. People are attached to sense gratification. That is foolishness. Although it is a settled fact that one has to give up everything here that has been created by valuable human energy. Great statesmen, scientists, philosophers who are foolish without any information of the spirit soul think that this life of a few years is all in all and there is nothing after death. So that's how Prabhupada is condemning this material civilization, how people are just thinking of sense gratification in this world. And then Prabhupada writes how Bhagavad Gita gives the preliminary instruction that one should know that identity of the individual living entity is not lost at the end of the body. Which verse? It is nothing but the change of dress.
Vasamsi
jirnani yatha vihaya. Yes. Na hanyate hanne manishare. All these sources Prabhupada is paraphrasing here. Intelligent person must be prepared for death and must try to have the best type of body. And what is that best type of body is? Spiritual body, which is obtained when he goes back to the spiritual world. Foolish people attach more importance to present temporary life, and the foolish leaders make appeals to body and bodily relatives, bodily relations. The bodily relations extend not only to this body, but also to the members, wife, children, society. They have particular tradition, all that. So basically, Prabhupada is elaborating on this, that one should not get attached to the family. One should live the life so that they can remember Krishna at the time of death. And all the varnashram system is meant for this purpose only. Prabhupada talks about that also. Brahmacharya, Vanprastha, Grihastha, Sannyas, that is the order which is set by the Lord, so that ultimately we can remember Krishna. But Prabhupada writes, those who are political leaders, they stick to the affairs till the last end of their life, and they are kicked off or they die. So that's all this Prabhupada writes in the purport. Okay, so we'll stop here. We will continue next time. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. मैं another half an hour में एक question answer करके भेजता हूँ प्रभु जी. हरे कृष्ण.
हाँ, no problem. Those who have not written, please write.
हाँ, thank you sir.